Hi everyone, my name is Steve Anderson. I'm a professor in the School of Media Arts and Design at JMU. This presentation is designed for those who wanted to learn more about the Summer in Urbino, Italy program run out of SMAD, but for those who are unable to attend the interest meeting or informational meeting, or just people who want more information. I'm going to turn off my video right now and give you the presentation about the Urbino program. All right, so what you see here in the background is the city of Urbino, the major part of it, the skyline as we call it. On the right side is something called the Ducal Palace or the Palazzo Ducale. We'll talk a little bit more about that. On the left side is what's called the Duomo or the Cathedral. And the city is really kind of perched on two hills in the region called the Marche region of Italy. The graphics at the bottom indicate what we intend to do for the academic experience in Urbino. There are going to be three different options for students to select. The first one is called multimedia storytelling, and in this case, students will work with a translator or interpreter to develop a story on a person, place, or event within the Urbino or Marche region. And it will produce text, photography, and a short video on that story, the person, the place, or the event. They'll end up on a website. We'll talk more about that. The second section is a magazine production section. In this case, the story would be also on a person, place, or event in the area. But you would produce, instead of a website, a print-on-demand magazine. This core section will feature writing, of course, a little bit longer form writing than the multimedia storytelling section, photography, and the difference is there will be no video in this section for those students who are wanting to focus more on writing and photography. The third section is a documentary video section. This will be students working together on a group to produce segments for a kind of video magazine where there will be a topic and a hosted kind of introduction to sections. We'll talk more about that. So the essential details, when does this happen? We expect to have it happen, presuming the program will be able to run, between May 27th and June 25th of next summer, 2022. That's about 4 weeks. I think it's 4 weeks in 1 day. And for that, you'll get 3 credits. There's a heavy emphasis on non-classroom instruction and more on learning to do text, photos, and video. We'll talk more about that too. It's kind of a non-traditional structure. There will be some more formal types of class presentations, but a good part of what you're doing is not spending time in a classroom. I mean, we're in Italy, for gosh sakes. More time out working on your stories and working with your mentors. And your mentors will be professors in the program, Professor Rustin Green and myself, for example. So if you're wondering where Urbino is, it's in the kind of central or northern central part of Italy. It's in what's called the Marche region, and the Marche region on the map there is the blue region that's labeled with Urbino. It's on the Adriatic coast. It's a drop-dead gorgeous place with mountains, hills, and of course the Adriatic Sea close by. Major cities in Italy: to the south would be Rome, to the north would be Venice, Milan, and Florence is just west of Urbino. It's separated though by the Apennine Mountains, and so getting to Florence usually involves a train to Bologna, which goes north a little bit, and then back down to Florence. The regions around it are Tuscany, Umbria, Emilia-Romagna, Abruzzo, and Lazio. And some of the pictures down there at the bottom. It is a just fabulously gorgeous, beautiful place. So there are a lot of things in Urbino to see itself. There's, of course, the Ducal Palace, which you'll want to visit while you're in Urbino. Very impressive, maybe the most impressive palace in all of Italy, certainly one of the most impressive skylines in all of Italy. It was built by the Duke of Urbino, who was Federico da Montefeltro, shown with the red hat there. You may have seen that painting before. The painting itself is of the Duke. He has this notch out of his nose that makes it very distinct in this profile painting. Supposedly injured his nose in a jousting accident. The Duke was a patron of the arts. very interested in science and art, and supported people inside the palace so that they could paint and conduct other activities with him as sort of their benefactor or patron. But he was also a fighter, a mercenary fighter known as a condottiere, the leader of troops who would be paid by one city-state in Italy to fight against another city-state in Italy. And so that's how he really made all of his money, because they were oftentimes paid to fight, but oftentimes also paid not to fight by the adversaries. Fascinating history you'll get into. There's the Marche National Gallery there inside the Ducal Palace with some very famous paintings, some great artwork you'll want to visit. And Raphael, the painter, was born and raised in Urbino, and his house is still there on a street called Via Raffaello, and you can visit it and see where Raphael was born and where he was raised. I mentioned the Duomo as well. The building stands today as a kind of rebuilt structure from 1789 after an earthquake. And that would be extremely old in this country, but in Italy that makes it more of a modern building. Urbino is a vibrant town with lots of activity that goes on day and night, especially night. So inside Urbino are these piazzas or plazas, various places in the community where people tend to congregate. The main piazza, the biggest one, is called Piazza della Repubblica, but there are others. And these are kind of the squares where people hang out. It's where music events seem to go on at all hours. We've run through the piazzas and found things like fashion shows, bike races, foot races, all kinds of activity going on in various times in Urbino. So there's also a fair amount to do near Urbino. The Adriatic beaches are about 20 to 30 miles away. Very easy to get to. There are buses that run regularly out of Urbino to a town called Pesaro, which is on the Adriatic coast. And there are fabulous beaches there where you can go for a day trip, or maybe you want to spend more time there. You'll have some ability to do that as well. You'll probably want to visit Venice and Florence, or one of those at some point during your trip. And Florence is, of course, without giving you a lot of background on Florence, you probably know all about Florence, but there's certainly an opportunity to visit Florence as well. I haven't listed Venice here, but that's a trip that a lot of students make as well. So when would you do these trips? Well, you do have 2 3-day weekends available. In other words, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, it'll be free and open to you to explore the city or to travel some, perhaps with friends you make there. Students tend to go in groups often. So the 2 3-day weekends are kind of the middle weekends. The first weekend you're in Urbino, we have you there in town. The second and third are available for travel, with people taking off usually on a Friday morning, maybe coming back on a Sunday night. Those towns are available via bus and train: Florence, Rome, Bologna, and Venice. The regional buses in the area also serve many of the small towns in the region. You can visit those areas too. If you want to do more extensive travel, realize you're committed to the program and our courses and experience, except for those 3-day weekends when you're free to travel. But some students want to do more extensive travel, and so what goes on there is we encourage students to do that either before or after the Urbino program. It's common for students to plan to spend a week or 2 beyond the Urbino program and travel at that point through Italy or other parts of Europe, for example. It often occurs that students have their parents come over about that time, or friends meet up with them and do their more major extensive travel, usually after the program. So the academic experience, as I mentioned, there are 3 sections. The first one, multimedia storytelling. So you'll work on a story on a person, place, or event, and your story will include text, photos, and video, and it will appear on a website we create. The second section we intend to do will be on magazine production. Students will produce a story there with text and photos, but without video, for a print-on-demand magazine. So heavy emphasis on writing, longer form writing than the first section, and heavy emphasis on photography. And the third section, primarily for DVC students, we take some of our more higher end video gear to Urbino, and you'll work in a small group with that equipment to produce what's called a promotional video. Kind of a video magazine, if you will, very feature oriented. A host is selected to introduce the various segments, and a program of a common theme tends to go on for about 20 to 25 minutes. So we usually try to keep that section to about 6 to 7 students. There's probably no better way to see what the academic experience results in than to look at the websites that we've created, because the website will show work from all 3 of the sections. The last program we did in Urbino was 2019, of course, because of COVID canceling programs in 2020 and 2021. So if you go to that address, 2019.urbinoproject.com, you can see the stories that students produced there for text, audio, photos, and video. The photos on the right are of students. This was from 2019. There's a large group there that you can see in the top photo on the right. That's an entire group photo that includes all the instructors, the interpreters, the translators, and students who are in the program. And you can look back to see other years by simply changing out the year from 2019. You can go to 2018.urbinoproject.com. Here's the 2017 program. Some images here of the 2016 Urbino project. The fellow in the middle on the bottom there is a good friend of the program, Giovanni Garbulli, who runs a cafe in town called Sugar Cafe, and he's a real treat, and he often helps our students with story ideas and learning how to sort of navigate around the area. The 2015 program. The address changes a bit from that structure in 2015 to 2014. You enter this URL, projects.ieimedia.com/2014 Urbino. 2013. No image included for 2012 and 2011, but we did do a program in those years, and we started the Urbino program and JMU's involvement in 2011, so it's gone on for a long, long time. Some images there of Urbino Now magazine from the last version that we created. And if you go to the website that I mentioned, 2019.urbinoproject.com, you'll also be able to view the magazine-style video that students created called Urbino Now. Get a good idea of what was involved in the production of that video. So the program typically includes all SMAD majors. We have had in the past, though, some students who have come from some of the other concentrations, including SMAD, besides SMAD, including SCOM and WRTC, and some of those other programs. Besides Professor Green and myself, there will be these other faculty members in Urbino who will help teach subjects like writing, photography, and video. Susan Biddle will be there. She's a former White House photographer, worked under the George H.W. Bush administration. She also is a news photographer for the Washington Post, and she goes back to the Denver Post as well. We'll have another photography instructor with us. It could be Bob Reeder, who also has experience at the Washington Post. It could also be someone named Denny Chamberlain. And so we'll certainly have some professionals there involved in photography. Among the writing faculty will be Bob Marshall. He's a reporter who worked for the New Orleans paper called the Times-Picayune. And he's actually won 2 Pulitzer Prizes. If you don't know much about the Pulitzer Prize, you might do some reading about it. It's a very prestigious award, and for somebody to have won 2 of it is a pretty major accomplishment. So his beat was primarily the environment, but he comes in and works with our students on writing and reporting. The magazine faculty would include Michael Gold and Susan West. They live in San Francisco. They have been a team working on the development of a number of magazines over the years, including Health and Dwell, and have a very high-end industry background there as well. On the video side, we expect to have Greg Luft with us as well, and Greg will probably bring some students from his university, Colorado State University. He's the chair of the Journalism and Technical Communication Department at CSU and worked in television in Denver. And that's how I first knew him, from working in television in Denver many years ago. And then there's these two guys. This is me, and of course my colleague, Professor Rustin Green. Rustin Green would be with us at the interest meeting that occurs live. I'm sorry we don't have him here in the video presentation for you, but he's going to be overseeing the documentary video section and has an extensive background in video production. Now, you may be wondering about Italian language background if you don't speak Italian. It's not really a problem. We don't require that you have Italian language background. We will have an instructor named Francesca Carducci who will have some course sessions on Italian language and culture, though. And she also coordinates the people who we hire as students who are translators and interpreters. One of the great things about the program is that you're going to have the ability to work with University of Urbino students. Usually they're foreign language students at the University of Urbino who speak fluent English as well as Italian. And they will serve as our interpreters or translators. So when you need to go out on a story, you contact one of the interpreters and they go out with you. And they will communicate with the non-Italian speaking people you're talking to in your story. They can also help with determining what sorts of things were said in recorded interviews. And of course, they also oftentimes become good friends. It's been a very common situation to see a lot of our students maintain contact with these interpreters over the years. Now, where will you live? You'll live in a dorm at the University of Urbino. Provided along with that will be 3 meals a day on most days. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the student cafeteria, which is near your dorm. Pillows, sheets, and towels will be provided, so you don't need to bring those. Students will have will probably share a room with another student. We may have some private rooms available. We're a little bit up in the air as to which dorm we'll be in for 2022. We've been in 2 different dorms over the years. There's talk of maybe yet a different dorm in 2022. But in either case, whether we will get the same space as we had in 2019 or we get this new space that's being considered, those spaces are right in the center of town and very close to the classrooms and all the activity. So that's what we anticipate happening. As I mentioned, JMU's participation in the Urbino program goes back to 2011. But there are besides other faculty there who will work with you, there will be other students there as well. English-speaking college students from the United States and from places like listed below. Iowa State University typically has students. Washington and Lee University has typically had students. Colorado State University, Ithaca College, a long list. Also Rider University in recent years. So probably the way this has worked in most years, it's predominantly SMAD JMU students who are part of the program. We typically will have somewhere between 20 and 30 students participate overall. Out of that number, if say we had 30 students, in greatest likelihood 20 to 25 of them would be SMAD JMU students, and the remaining handful would come from other universities. It varies from year to year. So you are expected to bring a laptop computer. If you have a DSLR camera, great. If not, we have some available in Urbino. We provide anything you would need for video, HD video cameras, tripods, mics, maybe some editing platforms. We find that most students today have basic editing applications on their laptops. And you can see from the pictures on the right, a lot of the work that goes on happens in the city itself. You might be editing in the piazza while having coffee, and you may be shooting your cameras in various locations throughout the day and the evening. All right, now for kind of a summary of the major things. The program will run, as I said before, from May 27th to June 25th. The cost will possibly vary. It's not locked in at this point. It will depend on a lot of things, including how many students are allowed to participate. But typically this program would involve paying JMU tuition for 3 credits. And of course that varies depending on if you're in state or out of state. And then on top of that would be a program fee that's the same for everybody. So this is tentative, but we're looking at costs something like this. So 3 credits of tuition for in-state would be about $1,260. Out of state is more, of course, $2,961, and then a $4,240 program fee on top of that. That includes your room, includes your meals at the cafeteria. It includes transportation from Rome to Urbino and from Urbino back to Rome. It includes other trips we'll do, like day trips around the region and transportation to those places, lessons in Italian culture, language, some area excursions, cultural activities, wine tasting, tour of the Ducal Palace, and also your ability to work with these interpreters who we pay to help with that. The one cost there that's not included, of course, is airfare, so you would have that on top. Airfare can vary greatly from just a few $100s to maybe $1,500, $1,600, possibly even a little bit more. It all depends on a lot of factors. If you're interested to apply, you can go to that address or search the JMU website for the Urbino program, or go directly to the Center for Global Engagement's website and browse to find it there. And the application deadline is November 1st of this year. Applications could still be accepted after that date, but priority acceptance will go to those students who apply by November 1st. I'm trying to make the application process as simple as possible without involving too many things. You will not need to have a reference letter as part of the application. There is a short essay that we're going to require students to do, but it's not too onerous a process. If you have questions, my contact information is there. Again, my name is Steve Anderson, and my email address is anderssd, ANDERSSD @jmu.edu. You can certainly also contact Professor Rustin Green, whose email address is greenerp, GREENERP @jmu.edu. And that really summarizes the program. If you have questions, please contact me. We'd love to have you come to Urbino with us. Thanks for listening. Bye.